This presentation is on the public health issue of gender-based violence against internally displaced people, with a particular focus on the country of Haiti between 2004 and 2017. This project is for HPAM695 at the CUNY School of Public Health. Representing Group 3 are Saeed Ali, Stephanie Sinius, Ansley Hobbs, Naomi Legros, and Priyanka Nadanasa Basin. We will begin this presentation by detailing the historical background of gender-based violence against internally displaced people in Haiti. Next, our research methodology and findings will be detailed to illustrate how we developed the framework of our intervention, followed by the aim of this particular intervention and its target population. Based on our findings, the 4 objectives of this intervention will be presented, with each objective expanded upon further by group members. The discussion section will detail the ways in which this intervention contributes to our knowledge base of gender-based violence and helps to fill literature gaps on interventions for IDP communities. Afterwards, the limitations and difficulties of our intervention will be acknowledged. Finally, the presentation will move into our conclusion and references.
President Jean-Bertrand Aristide was Haiti's first democratically elected president in 1990 and was elected to the presidency for a second 5-year term in December 2000. Conflict over the legitimacy of the 2000 elections, along with months-long civil unrest in February 2004, were some of multiple events leading to the removal of President Aristide on February 29th by rebel groups led by Guy Philippe, along with aid from the United States. The UN mission in Haiti, known by its French acronym MINUSTA, was established on April 30, 2004 by Security Council Resolution 1542 in response to the violent overthrow of President Aristide. Resolution 1542 urged the Haitian government to restore rule of law and protect the human rights of Haitian citizens. MINUSTA was mandated to provide and secure a stable environment and support the political process of the Haitian government. The moment the peacekeeping mission was in operation, MINUSTA has been virulent with their gender-based violence against Haitian women and girls. Within the first 3 years of the mission, a report by the Associated Press revealed that at least 134 Sri Lankan peacekeepers raped girls and boys in an organized sex ring as young as 12 years old in exchange for small goods. The prevalence of gender-based violence in humanitarian settings is high due to the disruption of the functioning of a community or a society, and the economic and environmental losses along with the high death rates, which hinders the affected community's ability to cope with their own resources. Therefore, when the devastating earthquake ravaged the Haitian capital Port-au-Prince and neighboring communities on January 12, 2010, over 200 lives were lost and over 300,000 individuals were injured. More than 1 million Haitians were displaced as a result. Post-earthquake violence enacted by the peacekeepers include a report leaked in 2015 revealing over 229 women confirming transactional sex with the peacekeepers. In return, the women were given money, food and medicine, and general humanitarian aid post the earthquake. Throughout the entirety of the mission, 265 women have birthed what is colloquially referred to as peacekeeping babies, or children fathered by UN peacekeepers. Alleged consensual relationships formed between older Haitian women and the personnel for stability, survival, and economic security, with promises of being able to attend school and be taken care of. The results of the peacekeepers' departure left the women and girls stigmatized from their community and exacerbated pre-existing conditions of poverty because they had to raise their children alone. In 2017, the UN aimed to replace MINUSTA with a follow-up mission to help the government of Haiti strengthen rule of law institutions, further develop and support the Haitian National Police, and engage in human rights monitoring, reporting, and analysis. MINUSTA officially ended in October of that year. An examination of peer-reviewed articles and publications were employed for this systematic review. 5 databases, including Scopus, Medline, Google Scholar, ScienceDirect, and JSTOR, were used. Search terms utilized include Haiti and gender-based violence, or sexual abuse, or sexual assault, and the United Nations, or MINUSTA, or UN peacekeeping and intervention. Articles were reviewed if published after 2004 and were written in English. The literature that was used for this presentation were predominantly qualitative interviews that have illustrated and supported claims that MINUSTA has been one of the most controversial UN missions with extensive allegations of sexual exploitation and abuse. A large percentage of the academic literature names poverty as a key underlying factor, along with socioeconomic and other power imbalances contributing to sexual abuse and exploitation by peacekeeping forces. Traditional gender roles in Haitian culture have influenced the low reporting rates due to stigma, victim blaming, and fear of retribution. Isolated bathrooms or showers, insufficient or non existent outdoor lighting, insecure housing or shelter in the camps, and limited access to food and water are some of the factors that contribute to increased sexual exploitation and assault in IDP camps. Haitian women in the camps often engaged in transactional sex with UN peacekeepers to pay for school fees and other means for survival. Very commonly, women in humanitarian settings resort to transactional sex as a coping mechanism in response to the risks and vulnerabilities that they face in an unstable environment, which in Haiti has been in cause to the 2004 coup against President Aristide and the 2010 earthquake. Gaps in our research have illustrated that gender based violence in IDP camps were mostly enforced by Haitian perpetrators and not UN peacekeepers, which demonstrates that more research needs to be done on the violence that the peacekeepers have enacted within the camps. Gender based violence by MINUSTA peacekeepers have largely occurred in 10 UN bases across the country. In addition, thousands of displaced Haitians have sought shelter with family and friends. Therefore, there needs to be a stronger distinction in research between the gender based violence inflicted by peacekeepers against the displaced Haitians in households that are outside of the camps and those within the camps.
The aim of this intervention is two-pronged. First, we seek to hold the United Nations accountable for peacekeeper-perpetrated gender-based violence by obtaining UN funding. This funding will be used to improve specialized healthcare services for survivors in the areas where MINUSTA were stationed. Our specific target population is internally displaced people living in both camps and informal settings in Haiti. In 2010, there were over 1 million IDPs in central Haiti. A decade later, this number remains at just under 35,000 individuals whose living situations continue to place them at risk of gender-based violence.
We aim to implement our interventions in 4 stages. The first stage is set to be completed in 2021 and consists of creating educational materials and activities on gender-based violence at 3 different hospital locations. The second stage of the intervention will be to identify and train 20 key stakeholders and community leaders to organize within camps at the community level against gender-based violence and to increase internal accountability. This stage of the intervention is to be completed by year 2022. By 2025, UN grants and compensation should be directed towards expanding Mirbalais Hospital's existing women's ward to improve gender-based violence survivor health services. Lastly, by 2030, 3 United Nations-funded satellite sites will provide comprehensive, confidential, and accessible mental health services for survivors of gender-based violence. Due to stigma, women who are victims of sexual violence often fear coming forward to report their abusers. Given this, our first intervention stage aims to create and distribute educational materials and to hold activities on gender-based violence at 3 hospital locations by the year 2021. These hospitals are St. Damien's Pediatric Hospital, located in Port-au-Prince, Sami La Santé Hospital in Mirbalais, and State University of Haiti Hospital in Port-au-Prince as well. The idea is that distributing these materials and having an interactive workshop where participants are educated on gender-based violence will help to decrease stigma and victim blaming, which will enable women to come forward to report acts of sexual abuse. Each participating hospital will hold an hour-long workshop aimed at educating individuals on how to identify and report cases of sexual exploitation. The workshops will be held either at 9 a.m. or 3 p.m. every day of the week except Sundays, and will focus on violence towards women specifically, but will be open to the general public. In addition to the involvement of the staff of the three aforementioned hospitals, the National Police Force and Ministry of Public Health and Population will need to be involved in order for this initiative to be successful. The United Nations will provide funding in the form of grants in order to pay for the materials and to support the workshop activities.
In addition to providing information on gender-based violence at hospitals, this intervention also incorporates a community organizing component to improve internal accountability and reporting mechanisms within the ID camps and communities, as well as to reduce community stigma associated with victimhood. By having IDP communities identify 20 community leaders, it provides a level of self-efficacy and solidarity which has been found to be significant in improving program maintenance and community buy-in. Further, community leaders of equal representation bring about the opportunity to empower female leaders. Male community leaders also play an important role as they may have more interactions and access to other males within the IDP community and can thus spur along important conversations around the role of men in combating gender-based violence. Trainings will be conducted on how to navigate and handle these sensitive circumstances with an emphasis on confidentiality, inclusivity, and empathy. This is especially important in order to ensure that these systems foster trust so that survivors of gender-based violence are able to report their experiences without fear of retribution. These key IDPs are critical as they shape the conversation in a way which is culturally appropriate and situationally relevant. The Mirebalais Hospital Women's Ward provides high-quality care and assistance to all in need, regardless of ability to pay. Many of the hospital's current services are centered around maternal care, so an expansion in services for gender-based violence survivors is warranted. This may include emergency care services, such as rape kits and rapid testing for HIV and STIs, as well as longer-term services, such as prenatal care and mental health resources. The center may also serve as a community workshop centering on the topic of gender-based violence, reporting stigma, and material assistance. At the beginning of this intervention, a strong working relationship with the Mirebalais Hospital staff must be established to ascertain budgeting requirements necessary for this expansion. Once budgeting needs are obtained, identification of United Nations funding sources will commence, either through judicial reparations pathways or grant pathways. Regardless of how funding is obtained, this project seeks to exclusively use United Nations money in order to serve as an accountability mechanism. Alternative funding is thus deemed inappropriate. The funding will provide material assistance for those affected by gender-based violence to acknowledge the injustices committed by MINUSTA between 2004 and 2017. Funding will be discussed further in the discussion section. Overall, this objective seeks to improve the Mirebalais Hospital infrastructure and improve accessibility of services for all persons affected by gender-based violence.
In order to successfully combat gender-based violence in Haiti long-term, it is critical to set up stable infrastructure that provides comprehensive, confidential, and advanced mental health services for survivors of gender-based violence. Objective 4 of our intervention aims to create and establish 3 satellite mental health clinics in Haiti by 2030. These 3 sites will be built in close proximity to the 3 largest IDP populations in the capital of Port-au-Prince. These clinical mental health sites will be funded by the UN through the same mechanisms as Stage 3 of the intervention. As stated previously, this funding will act as a form of compensation and acknowledgement for the rampant abuses committed by the UN peacekeepers from 2004 to 2007. Awareness of these sites' presence and range of services will be spread through already established partnerships with hospitals, community leaders, and other stakeholders that were identified in earlier stages of this intervention. In order to ensure inclusivity and accessibility, the hours of these sites will be from 7 a.m. to midnight. This flexibility will allow for survivors to be able to choose the hours that are most accommodating to their own lives. Creating formal services for survivors is necessary to create a safe space that is solely focused on the recovery of those directly affected by gender-based violence, free from stigma. The presence of a tailored clinical mental health care is not only an essential component for recovery, but also has a lasting impact on dismantling dominant misconceptions regarding seeking professional care. Additionally, by providing more sites in the city's capital, the caseload of survivors becomes more manageable, and thus services are more efficient for all health sites focused on survivor health across the country.
This intervention would improve conditions for survivors of gender-based violence by providing community accountability and reducing stigma, improving affordable access to reproductive and mental health services, and holding the United Nations accountable for the actions of MINUSTA between 2004 and 2017. Importantly, this intervention, as well as similar ongoing studies, provide an important opportunity to increase the number of evidence-based interventions for gender-based violence. Further, very few gender-based violence interventions have focused on IDP communities, so this may also fill a critical gap in our knowledge base. Regarding funding, in 2016, the United Nations General Secretary issued a formal apology for the role the United Nations played in bringing cholera to the Haitian people, and later announced their plans to provide reparations for cholera survivors. This admission highlights an important breakthrough in how a reparations case can be successfully fought and won to provide monetary assistance for survivors. While the cholera victim reparations outcome was able to provide direct assistance to individuals, we recognize that this is more difficult for gender-based violence survivors due to reporting gaps and lack of documentation. As an alternative, the United Nations should fund programs offering material assistance through service provision for all gender-based violence survivors.
Due to the expansive nature of the issues being addressed, there are clear challenges and limitations that our intervention faces. One weakness is the inability to hold the specific perpetrators of the abuse committed from 2004 to 2007 accountable due to complicated legal processes and absence of information needed for prosecution. Another difficulty is ensuring that UN funding alone is a sufficient enough incentive to create stronger accountability mechanisms in the future. One more challenge is building trust among survivors to utilize the services provided through the intervention, given the climate of suspicion of institutions in Haiti. Lastly, it is important to establish systems of accountability to safeguard against any potential corruption among community leaders. Addressing these difficulties is critical to ensuring our intervention's success.
Despite these limitations and weaknesses, promising gender-based violence interventions are making progress in improving the long-term health and safety of survivors. This intervention has been crafted to reflect some of the best practices and recommendations from around the world to bring survivor-centered care to internally displaced people in Haiti. In addition to bringing improved services, we must also hold perpetrators and institutions to account. The United Nations has flouted responsibility for MINUSTA-perpetrated violence for over a decade due to their inability to prosecute peacekeepers. Therefore, we must bring together professionals from across sectors to protect the health of vulnerable, displaced groups by moving forward a framework which rectifies power imbalances and improves the health outcomes for all.